The Everglades was formed thousands of years ago. Heavy rain caused Lake Okeechobee to overflow its banks, but instead of forming a stream or just one big lake, instead that water spread out over many, many acres, forming a shallow, slow-moving, grassy river. The Native Americans called it Paheoke, which means river of grass. The Native Americans lived in harmony with the Everglades for thousands of years. It wasn't until the arrival of Europeans that the Everglades was changed forever. As more and more people moved to Florida, they altered the Everglades to suit their needs. More and more of the Everglades was drained for farming and cut down for housing. Eventually, the Everglades shrunk and shrunk and shrunk to less than half its original size. And over half of all the birds in the Everglades disappeared. In fact, a lot of the animals in the Everglades are endemic. Endemic means they are found nowhere else in the entire world. Unfortunately, a lot of folks, especially people who don't live in the state of Florida, think the Everglades is just one great big swamp. Is it just one great big swamp?
No.
No! The Everglades is actually made up of many different complex ecosystems. Who knows what an ecosystem is? Yes?
It's like a bunch of animals that like depend on each other.
Well, that's a...
It's like an organism.
Oh, ecosystem is a place where lots of different plants and animals live. Ecosystems are habitats. And there are 5 main habitats that we find in the Everglades. And some of them are not wet or swampy at all. The first habitat is called the pine land habitat. What do you think is the dominant tree in the pine land habitat? Yes. Exactly, the pine tree. The pine land habitat actually depends on fire to survive. Fire causes the pine cones to pop open like great big popcorn kernels. When they pop open, they drop their seeds. The fire also clears away all the dead pine needles and dead leaves on the forest floor that would choke the baby pine trees and prevent them from getting sunlight. The next habitat of the Everglades is called the mangrove habitat. Now, what do you think is the dominant tree in the mangrove habitat? Here's a hint, it's not a mango. Yes. Exactly, a mangrove tree. Has anybody ever seen a mangrove tree before? Who can tell me what a mangrove tree looks like? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well, basically, a mangrove tree looks more like a resurfaced tree. A tree with roots that don't exactly go into the ground. So part of the roots are shown, but the other part is not shown, because apparently it's deep down in the sand. The tree's just way up in the water, its roots are in the sand.
Exactly, very good. The mangrove tree has the roots above the surface, going down into the water. In fact, with those roots right above the surface, it looks like a great big spider. It looks like a great big spider. It's also known as the walking tree, because people think that tree looks like it's going to walk away any second. The mangrove habitat is very important because most of the saltwater fish in the Everglades begin their lives in the Everglades, hiding underneath the mangrove roots until they're big enough to avoid getting gobbled up by all the bigger fish. Also, a lot of the water in the mangrove habitat is known as brackish. That's where salt and fresh water meet. In fact, these are some seeds from a mangrove tree. They look like little green pencils, don't they? Or green beans? Well, they grow on the branches, then they fall off, go plop into the water, get carried with the current, and where they stop, that's where another mangrove tree grows. In fact, there's entire islands in the Everglades that are formed this way. The next habitat in the Everglades is called a slough habitat. That's S-L-O-U-G-H, slough. Sloughs are the deep waterways in the Everglades where animals like turtles, alligators, otters can dive down deep. The next habitat is called the sawgrass habitat. Sawgrass is a plant that grows out of the shallow water. In fact, most pictures you see in the Everglades are of sawgrass habitats. Sawgrass gets its name because if you were to grab a bunch of it, it would slice up your fingers. Because sawgrass has little tiny teeth on it, just like the blades of a saw. You can see it if you looked at it under a magnifying glass. Last but not least is called the hammocks habitat. Hammocks are areas of dry land surrounded by all the wetland. This is where we find trees that don't like a lot of water, such as the oak or the mahogany. Well, now that you've learned all about the different habitats of the Everglades, do you want to see some of the animals that live there?
Yes.
Well, before I bring in the animals, we need to go over a few rules. Rule number 1, your participation is mandatory. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. If you know the answer, don't scream out. Please raise your hand. Also, when I bring in the animals, it's okay to get excited, but we can't yell and scream and talk really loud, because how will the animals feel if we get way too loud? Exactly. If we get way too loud, the animals will get scared. And we certainly don't want to scare the animals, do we? No, and if everyone follows the rules, I'll be able to let you pet the animals at the end of the presentation. So, you ready to see some animals?
Yes.
I said, you ready to see some animals?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to start with the reptile king of the Everglades. What is it? Raise your hand if you know.
Gators.
Well, let's see. Let's see. This is Freddie. Say hi, Freddie. Freddie is an American alligator. He is just a baby. He's only about 2 years old. He's only about 2 years old. He's going to get to be much bigger. Alligators have been on Earth for millions of years, since the age of the dinosaurs. Does he look like a dinosaur?
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, alligators eat pretty much whatever they can find in the Everglades. They'll eat fish, turtles, mammals, reptiles, birds, whatever they come across. But at Jungle Island, Freddie's favorite food is fish. He loves to eat fish at Jungle Island. Well, here's a question for you guys. What kind of meat do you think alligators eat the most of in the Florida Everglades? Here's a hint. It's not fish. Yes.
Birds.
Nope. Here's a hint. They're very slow. Yes. Nope. Yes. What?
Steak.
Nope. One more? Yes. Nope. The kind of meat they eat the most of is snails. Alligators love to eat the Florida apple snail. In fact, the University of Miami a couple of years ago did a study where they caught a whole bunch of alligators in the Everglades and they checked all of their stomach contents. And every single alligator had a stomach filled with apple snail shell pieces. They love to munch on these, just like you guys probably like to eat Doritos and potato chips. These guys love to snack on apple snails. They're pretty convenient food source, aren't they? They don't move very fast.
Yeah.
Here's another question for you guys. Do alligators and sharks have the same kind of teeth?
No.
Who says yes, raise your hand.
I do.
Who says no, raise your hand. If you said no, they do not have the same kind of teeth, you're absolutely right. In fact, here's a jawbone from a larger alligator. And as you can see, alligator teeth are actually rounded. They're rounded like little white carrots. Alligator teeth are meant for tearing. They're meant for tearing. While triangular, shark's teeth are built for slicing. Right now, we can find millions of alligators in the state of Florida. But at one point, they almost completely disappeared about 100 years ago. Where did they all go? Did they all go on vacation?
No.
Did they all swim across the ocean? What happened to them 100 years ago? Why did they almost completely disappear? Yes?
They hid under the water.
No, they weren't hiding. Yes?
They were killed.
Exactly.
They've been killed by the
Because of overhunting. People were hunting them to make things like this. Alligator skin boots, as well as alligator skin luggage, wallets, purses, all kinds of products. But since they were protected under the Endangered Species Act, the numbers have increased so much that limited hunting is once again allowed. Limited hunting is once again allowed. Has anyone here ever tasted gator meat?
No.
Yeah?
I've had it.
Yep, well, it's pretty good. It tastes just like veal or chicken.
Chicken. Everything.
Let's say goodbye to Freddie. Okay, well the next animal I have to show you is also a reptile, but it looks completely different. This next reptile carries its house on its back. Yes. Well, let's see. Say hello to Pokey. Pokey is called a Florida box turtle. But don't let the name fool you. The box turtle is actually a, who thinks they know? Nope.
Red slider.
Alligator snapping turtle.
Nope. The Florida box turtle, I'll give you guys a hint. It's because of where he lives.
It's a red slider.
Nope. The Florida box turtle is actually a type of tortoise. He's actually a type of tortoise because he lives his whole life on the land. Unfortunately, in the Everglades, people come across these guys and they think, oh, that poor water turtle lost the river. So what do you think they do by accident?
They put it in water.
Exactly. People unfortunately see these guys. They try to help them. They throw them in the nearest waterway. But these guys are not meant for swimming. They're meant for living on the land. They're way too heavy. So they sink to the bottom like a rock. And unfortunately, they usually drown. Also, you will often see these guys crossing roadways in the Everglades. They like to go for long walks. So if you ever see one crossing a roadway in the Everglades, always put it on the side that it's heading to. Because what do you think will happen as soon as you get in your car and drive away if you put it back on the other side? It'll go right across the roadway again. So if you want to help him, always put him on the side that he's heading to. Here's a question for you guys. Can tortoises and turtles take off their shells like you can take off your shoes? Who says yes, they can remove their shells? Raise your hand. Who says no, they cannot remove their shells? If you said no, they cannot remove your shells, then you're absolutely right. They cannot take off their shells. Just like you can't take off your skeleton, neither can a turtle. I'm sure none of you can take off your skeleton, right? Well, I hope not. Well, their shell is part of their skeleton, and it grows along with the rest of their body. In fact, here is a cross-section of a box turtle shell. You can actually see that their backbone grows right down the middle.
How did you touch
Let's say goodbye to Pokey. Are you guys ready for the next animal? I said, are you ready for the next animal? Okay, well the next animal I have to show you is also a reptile, and it loves to slither around the Everglades. What do you think it is?
Snake.
It's a snake? Let's see. It's a snake. I told you guys. That's a fake snake. But this next snake is absolutely real. Say hello to Big Red. Big Red is a red rat snake. So what do you think he likes to snack on? Of course, he likes to eat rats, mice. They also will eat all kinds of reptiles, other snakes, lizards, and they will even steal eggs out of birds' nests, as well as gobbling up the baby birds that are in the nest as well. Yep, it's not uncommon for one of these guys to climb up to a bird's nest and gobble up the whole nest. Everything that's inside, all the eggs and any baby birds. Yes, but these guys are very helpful. They help keep the rodent population under control. And don't worry, they're not poisonous. They're not poisonous.
Yay!
Right now, you can see that Big Red here is sticking out his tongue. When snakes stick out their tongue, they're not trying to lick you. Who's they're really trying to do?
They're hungry.
What are they really trying to do? Yes.
Breathing.
Not breathing, yes. Not kissing. That's right. Snakes smell with their tongue. Right now, Big Red is smelling all of you, and he knows you're all humans, and none of you are great big rats or mice. Even if I was to cover his eyes, he would still know this room is filled with people, and none of you are snake food. None of you are snake food, right? I hope so. Is he pretty? Yeah, he's very pretty. He is brightly colored because he's brightly colored. Because bright colors often means the animal is poisonous or it tastes bad. So he's trying to scare away predators with those bright colors. But no, he's completely harmless. He's just trying to fool the other predators into thinking that he is dangerous.
Can I touch it?
Let's say goodbye to Big Red. Okay. Are you guys ready for the next animal? Okay, well I have a question for you guys. The red rat snake, like Big Red, is a snake that is native to the Everglades. We're supposed to find them in the Everglades. But there is one snake that has invaded the Everglades that we're finding by the thousands all over the Everglades. It's not supposed to be there. Who knows what kind of snake has invaded the Everglades and it is not supposed to be there? Yes.
It's either a python or an anaconda.
Well, let's see. Cavalli. Say, hey, Cavalli. Hey, Cavalli. Cavalli is a Burmese python. A Burmese python. Is he beautiful? Yes. Absolutely. But even though he's beautiful, remember, he is not supposed to be found in the Florida Everglades. He's supposed to be found in Southeast Asia. But how in the world did a South Asian snake get to the Florida Everglades? Did they swim here from Asia across the ocean? Did they all come here on vacation? Who knows? How did they get into the Florida Everglades? Yes. Well, people had smuggled them. What happened was, yes.
People had them as pets and they let them go.
Exactly. People bought them as pets when they were this big. But they grow very fast. Bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Till people have no room to keep them and are costing a lot of money to feed them. So those people let them loose in the Everglades. Well, the boys met the girls, and now we have thousands of these all across the Florida Everglades. And they are gobbling up everything that they find. They're gobbling up deer. They're gobbling up raccoons. They're gobbling up alligators. They're even gobbling up baby Florida panthers. In fact, a couple years ago, a Burmese python was found that had a 7-foot alligator in its stomach. So right now, scientists are trying to figure out how to get rid of as many of these as possible. Because if we don't stop them from multiplying, eventually they'll gobble up every animal in the Everglades. Remember, the alligator is supposed to be king of the Everglades, but these guys can gobble up a full-grown alligator, so they are destroying the Everglades ecosystem. Let's say goodbye to Cavalli. Are you guys ready for the next animal? I said, are you ready for the next animal? Okay, well let's move on to the next animal. We are going to leave the reptile family completely behind, and we are now going to move on to the mammals. We're going to move on to the mammals. The first mammal that I have to show you, I'll give you guys a hint. It's black and white, and you might smell it before you see it. What do you think it is? You think it's a skunk? Well, this is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a North American striped skunk. And what do you think she uses her paws for on the forest floor of the Everglades? That's right, she digs up her favorite snack, which is nice, juicy earthworms. Skunks will also eat insects, frogs, snails, fruit, vegetables. But at Jungle Island, her favorite foods are grapes, apple slices, and cat food. Who likes grapes? Raise your hand. Who likes apple slices? Raise your hand. Who likes cat food? Raise your hand. No, that's nothing. Skunks cannot run very fast. So what would she do if an alligator or a bear was chasing after her in the Everglades? How would she scare them away? Exactly, she would spray. She would lift up her tail and she would spray them. But don't worry, she is descented or deskunked. She cannot spray you. We took out her stink, you have nothing to worry about. If she did still have her stink, she can hit you from up to 6 feet away. And if she sprays you in your eyes, you will actually be blinded for a few hours. If a skunk sprays you, you will be so stinky, everyone will smell you from over a mile away. Everyone would run away from you. Does anyone know what you have to take a bath in to get a skunk's horrible stink off your body? That's right, tomato juice. I've also heard that vinegar might do the trick as well. But I don't know for sure, so we don't want to try it, do we? Let's say goodbye to Elizabeth. Are you guys ready for the next animal? I said, are you ready for the next animal? Okay, well this next animal I have to show you is a cousin to the skunk, but it looks completely different. While the skunk has to stay on the ground, this next animal climbs trees. You guys want to see what it is? Let's see. This is Frady. Remember, we get too loud, the animals get scared. This is Frady, and Frady is a possum. Frady is a possum. Possums are known as opportunistic omnivores. That means they eat pretty much whatever they can find. They will eat insects, snails, reptiles, mushrooms, fruit, vegetables. But at Jungle Island, Frady's favorite food is actually sweet potatoes. He loves to eat sweet potatoes. And you see that tail? That's known as a prehensile tail. A prehensile tail. That means the tail works like an extra arm or leg. So if Frady was to fall out of a tree, he would just grab the nearest branch with that tail. Here's a question for you guys. Do possums really sleep hanging upside down like they do in the cartoons?
No.
Who says yes, raise your hand. Who says no, raise your hand. If you said no, you're absolutely right. Possums don't really sleep hanging upside down. In fact, if a possum hangs upside down for too long, it will get a headache. Just like you would get a headache if you stood on your head for too long. Opossums are nocturnal. Who knows what nocturnal means? Yes. Yes.
They sleep in the day and they're awake at night.
Exactly. They sleep during the day and they're active at night. So Frady wants to get right back to sleep right now. He's like, what's with all the bright lights? Say goodbye to Frady. Okay. Well, I have another mammal to show you guys. This is a mammal that likes to hop around the Everglades. You think it's a rabbit? This is s'mores. Here's a question for you guys. Can rabbits swim? No. Who says no, they cannot? Raise your hand. Who says yes, they can? Raise your hand. If you said no, rabbits cannot swim, you're absolutely wrong. Rabbits are actually very good swimmers. They're actually very good swimmers. Often, an alligator will swim across a waterway in the Everglades so fast that the alligators and crocodiles won't be able to catch them. They are very good swimmers. We find 3 types of rabbits in the state of Florida. We find the marsh rabbit, the cottontail, and the European rabbit. Of those 3, which one do you think is not supposed to be found in the Florida Everglades? Yes.
Now, the answer is obvious that the European rabbits should not be found in the Everglades because they're from Europe.
Exactly, it's in the name. But how did the European rabbit get into the Florida Everglades?
People want to keep them as pets, so they take them in planes and...
Well, yep, they got the Everglades again, just like the Burmese python, because of humans.
What's his name?
People release them in the Everglades because they wanted to have more rabbits to hunt. Also, scientists think a lot of European rabbits escaped from farms that were on the outskirts of the Everglades. And now that we have European rabbits in the Everglades as well, they're actually breeding with our native rabbits. So now it's not uncommon to find hybrids in the Florida Everglades.
Cutest thing I've ever seen.
Are you guys ready? Well, did you guys learn a lot today? Do you want to know what you can do to help preserve the Florida Everglades?
Yes!
Well, a pretty easy thing for you to do is not to waste water. Don't leave the hose or the sink running while you're not using it. Because we don't want to waste water in the state of Florida. In fact, the water plants in the Everglades work like a filter. They filter out the contamination from our water supply. Also, without the plants in the Everglades, our neighborhoods would be flooded quite frequently because the plants of the Everglades work as well. Like a great big sponge, they help suck up all that rainwater. In fact, Florida's entire farming and fishing industry depends on the state of Florida. And remember, the Everglades is like nowhere else in the entire world. And once it's gone forever. We have to do everything we can to help protect the Everglades and the plants and animals that live there for future generations. Well, be sure to pass on everything you learned today, because every one of you can make a difference. And if you want to see more animals at Jungle Island, we have thousands more, and we have 3 great shows. Well, do you guys want to pet some of the animals?
Yes!
Well, what I'm going to do is, I need you guys to please stay seated, and I'll bring the animals around and I will let you pet them. If there's an animal that you don't want to pet, we're not going to scream, we're just going to say, no thanks, no thanks. And remember to please pay attention when I come by, because I don't want to hear anybody say I didn't get the touch, because everybody will get a chance. Yes. Nope, it's not poisonous. Nope. My name is Sean Roller. I'm from Jungle Island. I'm the Parks Education Specialist.
And I'm Jim Gaswicki. I'm the Recreation Director. Today we have Sean giving presentations to our children from the park. We've given 2 presentations with different animals. Here is a alligator that Sean brought. Sean, do you do this quite often?
Over the summer, almost every day.
Almost every day, yeah. And we've had a chance to have you here today. The Recreation Center does field trips out to the Everglades. We go to Shark Valley National Park. We go to Biscayne National Park. We've got rides to the Everglades Alligator Farm later this week. And Sean's presentations is like a kickoff to our nature and science presentations for the summer. What other animals did you bring today?
Well, today I brought a red rat snake, I brought a box turtle, a skunk, a rabbit, and a possum.
And we got the python in the caged up. He's not
Yes.
going to come out, is he?
No.
Okay.
He's a non-native exotic that unfortunately we are finding by the thousands right now in the Florida Everglades.
There's a lot on the news about that.
Oh, absolutely. They're a big problem. If we don't do something about them soon, they're going to take over the entire Everglades ecosystem.
Now, the way this guy's looking at me, he's not looking for a meal, is he?
No, not at all. Not unless you're a fish.
Well, he doesn't look friendly, I'll tell you that. Well, it was a pleasure having you. We've had very successful. The kids seem to be very interested, and I know they've learned a lot from what you presented today. So thank you very much for having us come out.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Okay,
I look forward to being back next summer.
definitely.